Making money fast when no one supports you begins when you stop treating support as the starting point. You are not broke because nobody believes in you. You are broke because you have not converted what you already control into proof the market can pay for. That is the hidden mechanism. People do not fund your pain, your potential, or your story. They pay when you solve a visible problem with a clear result, a clear price, and a clear deadline. While you wait to feel backed, another man is offering the skill you keep undervaluing, selling the time you keep wasting, and turning one small payment into evidence. But do not confuse speed with desperation. Begging lowers your position. Proof raises it. The unsupported man does not ask to be rescued. He audits what he owns, sells an outcome, collects proof, and repeats until cash flow becomes leverage. This is not theory. John Paul DeJoria went from living out of a car to becoming the billionaire behind John Paul Mitchell Systems and Patron. When he started John Paul Mitchell Systems, Forbes reported that he was living in his car for the first 2 weeks. No comfort, no protective structure, no emotional safety net, no applause from people telling him his future was obvious. But he did not walk into the market asking people to fund his pain. He sold a real product into a real market. The first bottles became evidence. The first salons became evidence. The first buyers became evidence. His suffering did not become money. His usefulness did. Now look at Howard Schultz. He grew up in a Brooklyn housing project, far away from the image of polished corporate power. Later, he turned Starbucks from a regional coffee company into one of the world's most recognized brands. But before the world respected the vision, he built proof. His company, Il Giornale, was a working model before the acquisition of Starbucks assets. The lesson is not that vision matters. The lesson is colder than that. Vision becomes respected only after it becomes operational. That is the part most unsupported men do not want to hear. You think the world is waiting to be convinced by your story. It is not. The world is waiting to see whether your story can produce a signal, a result, a buyer, a witness, a piece of evidence strong enough to make doubt more expensive than belief. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. In The Prince, he wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. In other words, most people do not see your inner struggle. They see what appears before them. They see your visible signal. They judge the result. That is brutal, but it is also freedom. Because if people judge by visible evidence, then your next move is not to explain your ambition harder. Your next move is to create evidence they cannot ignore. So the question is not, who supports me? The question is, what proof can I create in the next 72 hours? If you do not understand this, you will lose more than money. You will lose time. You will lose self-respect. You will lose the ability to trust yourself. And worst of all, you will become a man with explanations instead of evidence. Every unsupported man faces a private temptation. He wants to turn pain into identity. My family does not believe in me. My friends do not support me. No one sees what I can become. Maybe that is true. But truth is not enough. Because the world does not pay for the accuracy of your suffering, it pays for usefulness. If you keep waiting for emotional confirmation before you move, you give other people silent control over your timeline. Their doubt becomes your delay. Their silence becomes your excuse. Their lack of support becomes the prison you keep decorating with philosophy. And that prison can become comfortable. Not because it is good, but because it gives you an explanation. You can tell yourself that nothing has changed because nobody helped. You can call your delay loneliness. You can call your avoidance patience. You can call your fear dignity. You can call your lack of proof being misunderstood. But the market will not argue with you. The market simply responds or does not respond. That is why this video is not about motivation. Motivation is too soft for a man under pressure. This is about conversion. Converting what you already control into something another person can buy. Converting time into delivery. Skill into result. Result into proof. Proof into trust. Trust into cash flow. Cash flow into leverage. Machiavelli warned that nothing is more difficult than introducing a new order of things, because the innovator faces enemies from the old order and weak support from those who may benefit from the new one. That is exactly what happens when an unsupported man tries to change his life. The old version of you is familiar to everyone. Your broke identity is familiar. Your passive identity is familiar. Your dependent identity is familiar. Your family remembers the version of you that talked more than he delivered. Your friends remember the version of you that announced plans and disappeared into distraction. The world does not hate your future. It simply has no evidence for it yet. When you try to become useful, paid, disciplined, and undeniable, do not expect applause. Expect silence. Expect resistance. Expect people to wait and see. Because people do not believe in new things until they experience them. So give them experience. Give them proof. Give them a result. Now we enter the 7 laws of fast money for the unsupported man, not 7 fantasies. 7 laws. Because fast money is not chaos. Fast money is compressed. Proof. Law 1. Stop looking for rescue. The unsupported man must end the rescue fantasy first. Not because help is evil, not because support has no value, not because you should reject every hand that reaches toward you, but because waiting for help makes you slow, and speed matters when you need money. The weak man says, "I cannot start because no one is backing me." The strategic man says, "What can I control before anyone backs me?" There is a difference between wanting support and needing permission. Support can be useful. Permission is poison. The man who needs permission moves like a servant. He asks the room if his hunger is valid. He waits for people with no vision to approve his vision. He explains his dream to people whose incentives are built around safety, routine, and fear. Then he feels wounded when they do not bless a road they never had the courage to walk. But here is the insult hidden inside that behavior. When you keep asking people to believe in you before you move, you are making them responsible for your motion. You are saying, silently, that their approval has more authority than your own decision. That is why unsupported men stay trapped for years. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack pain, not because they lack ambition. They stay trapped because they keep trying to make the room emotionally agree before they create commercial evidence. Machiavelli wrote that those who rely on themselves are rarely endangered, while those who must rely on others struggle to complete their enterprise. He used the language of armed prophets, conquering and unarmed ones being destroyed. In this context, armed does not mean violence. It means proof, offer, delivery, reputation, and cash flow. A man with proof is armed. A man with only potential is exposed. Potential makes you feel important in private. Proof makes you difficult to dismiss in public. That is the first law. Stop looking for rescue, look for assets. Law 2. Audit what you already control. Most broke men say, "I have nothing." That is usually not true. They have unpriced assets. They have things sitting in their room that could become cash. They have unused items that could be sold. They have time. They waste because it does not feel valuable yet. They have a skill they underestimate because it feels normal to them. They have a phone full of contacts they never reach out to because rejection feels like a judgment on their identity. They have local problems around them that someone else would pay to remove. Fast money starts with an audit, not a dream. Open your room, open your phone, open your calendar, open your skill set. What do you own that someone else might buy? What do you know that someone else needs help understanding? What task can you do that another person hates doing? What result can you create in 24 to 72 hours? This is where most men fail. They search for the perfect opportunity while ignoring the ugly money in front of them. They want the first move to look impressive. They want the first offer to match the identity they imagine. They want the path to feel aligned with their future status. That is ego. And ego is expensive. Cleaning is not beneath you if it buys back your next week. Tutoring is not beneath you if it turns knowledge into proof. Editing videos is not beneath you if one client becomes a case study. Writing resumes is not beneath you if one improved resume becomes a testimonial. Helping someone move is not beneath you if it creates cash and momentum. Selling unused items is not beneath you if it proves that you can convert dead weight into movement. Small money is only humiliating to a man whose ego is larger than his discipline. You do not need your first move to impress people. You need it to produce evidence. And evidence changes the mind in a way explanation never can. If you are the kind of man who is tired of consuming harsh truths without turning them into action, stop mistaking watching for building. You already know support is not coming first, but your problem is not knowledge. Your problem is execution under pressure. If you keep collecting content while delaying proof, you will become sharper in language and weaker in results. Inside Patreon, you get deeper, more direct breakdowns on proof, leverage, offer creation, discipline, and power, so you can stop consuming identity and start building evidence. This is not for men who want comfort. It is for men who are ready to be tested by reality. The decision is yours. Now return to the audit. There are 4 controllable sources of fast, legitimate money. Things you own, skills you can sell, time you can trade, problems you can solve locally. That is it. Do not make it mystical. Do not make it spiritual. Do not make it more complicated than it needs to be, because complexity allows you to delay. Things you own are the fastest because they already exist. Unused equipment, clothes, tools, devices, furniture, books, anything that has value to someone else and dead weight to you. Selling these things will not make you rich, but that is not the point. The point is to create movement and remind your nervous system that money can be created through decisive action. Skills you can sell are stronger because they can repeat. Editing videos, creating thumbnails, tutoring, cleaning, translation, resume fixes, local errands, moving help, writing simple content, organizing a room, turning long videos into short clips, helping a small business make its offer clearer. These are not glamorous. But glamour is not the objective. Cash flow is. Time you can trade is the fallback when your skills are still weak. If you cannot yet command high value with expertise, you can still command value through reliability, speed, and willingness to solve annoying problems. Many people do not pay because the task is difficult. They pay because they do not want to do it. Problems you can solve locally are often ignored because they are not exciting. But local problems are full of friction. People need help cleaning, moving, organizing, fixing simple things, running errands, tutoring students, editing content, handling small business tasks, improving resumes, translating documents, or completing work they keep postponing. You do not need a perfect niche to begin. You need one problem, one buyer, one result, and one deadline. That is how the unsupported man moves from "I have nothing" to "I have unpriced assets." And once you see your assets, you stop begging reality to become fair. You start pricing what you control. Law 3. Sell outcomes, not desperation. Never sell your need, sell the result. When you say, "I need money," you lower your position. When you say, "I can solve this problem by Friday," you create value. The market does not care that you are tired. The market cares whether you can remove a problem. This sounds harsh because most men confuse being understood with being valuable. They want the buyer to feel their struggle. They want the client to recognize their effort. They want the world to know they are trying. But trying is not an offer. Pain is not an offer. Potential is not an offer. An offer is a clear promise of a result. This is the language shift. Do not say, "I am looking for work." Say, "I can edit 10 short-form clips in 48 hours." Do not say, "I need clients." Say, "I help small creators turn long videos into short clips." Do not say, "I am broke." Say, "I can clean, organize, write, translate, design, tutor, repair, deliver, or assist by this deadline for this fixed price." Desperation asks for sympathy. An outcome asks for payment. And there is a status difference between the two. When you sell desperation, you make the other person feel powerful and burdened. They hear your need before they see your value. They may pity you, ignore you, or avoid you. But when you sell an outcome, you give them a clean decision. They either want the result or they do not. You are no longer asking them to rescue your situation. You are offering to improve theirs. That is positioning. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few really know what you are, and in the actions of men, one judges by the result." So stop trying to make people know your heart. Make them see your result. If you are unsupported, you cannot afford vague language. Vague language is a luxury for people with networks, reputation, and inherited trust. When you have no support, clarity becomes your weapon. Your sentence must carry the weight your reputation cannot yet carry. The unsupported man cannot say, "I do many things." That sounds weak. He says, "I help this person get this result by this deadline for this price." That sounds useful. And usefulness is the first form of power available to a man with no backing. The hidden cruelty of the market is that people can ignore your suffering without consequence. But they cannot ignore a useful offer forever if it solves a problem they actually feel. Your job is not to become louder. Your job is to become clearer. Because once you stop selling pain and start selling outcomes, the next question becomes dangerous. Can you compress your value into one clear offer the market can buy within 72 hours? Law 4. Build a 72-hour cash offer. Your value does not become money until it becomes easy to buy. This is where most unsupported men fail. They have ability, but no container. They have energy, but no offer. They have skills, but no sentence that turns those skills into a clean decision for another person. And the market does not reward confusion. If your offer cannot be understood in one sentence, people will not investigate your potential. They will move on. They will not study your pain. They will not decode your intentions. They will not ask 3 follow-up questions just to discover what you mean. The burden is not on the buyer to understand you. The burden is on you to make your usefulness visible. That is why your cash offer needs 4 parts: a specific person, a specific result, a specific time, a specific price. Use this formula. I help a specific person get a specific result in a short time for a clear price, not vague, not poetic, not desperate, clear. I help local students improve their English-speaking practice in 1 week for a clear price. I help small YouTubers create 5 thumbnails in 48 hours for a clear price. I help busy professionals clean and organize 1 room this weekend for a clear price. I help job seekers improve their resume in 24 hours for a clear price. I help small businesses turn one long video into 10 short clips for a clear price. This is not your life purpose. This is not your final identity. This is not the empire. This is the first blade you put in your hand when you are tired of being passive. A cash offer is a weapon against stagnation. It gives the market something to respond to. It gives your time a price. It gives your skill a container. It gives your pride a deadline. And that deadline matters. Because without a deadline, your ambition expands into fog. You can keep telling yourself you are preparing. You can keep researching. You can keep building the perfect plan. You can keep adjusting your bio, your logo, your niche, your future brand, your long-term vision. But a man under pressure does not need a perfect brand. He needs a paid result. Your offer must be small enough to deliver quickly and clear enough to sell directly. The unsupported man does not begin by building a complex business. He begins by proving that the market will exchange money for one result he can create. That result becomes a signal. The signal becomes confidence. The confidence becomes repetition. Repetition becomes cash flow. And cash flow begins to change the way you stand in the world. Not because money makes you superior, because money gives you options. And options reduce fear. When you have no money, every opinion feels heavier. Every rejection feels dangerous. Every criticism feels like a threat to your survival. But when you can create cash from skill, time, assets, and direct action, you stop treating every closed door like a verdict on your life. You begin to understand that the market is not one person. One person can ignore you. One business can reject you. One creator can say no. One friend can fail to recommend you. But the market is larger than one face, one family, one group, one algorithm, one room. Your job is not to be loved by everyone. Your job is to become useful to someone specific enough to pay. That is why the 72-hour cash offer is so important. It forces you to stop hiding behind general ambition. It turns your potential into a test. Can you name a buyer? Can you name a problem? Can you name a result? Can you name a price? Can you name a deadline? If you cannot, then your problem is not lack of support. Your problem is lack of positioning. And positioning is not a personality trait. It is a discipline. Law 5, ask directly, not passively, not passively. The unsupported man cannot wait for algorithms. He cannot post once and call it strategy. He cannot whisper into the internet and act betrayed when nobody hears him. If you need money fast, you need direct contact. 30 messages, not spam, not begging. 30 clear offers sent to people who may no demand. 10 people who already know you. 10 local businesses or creators. 10 communities where the problem exists. The message is simple. Hey, I'm taking on a few quick projects this week. I help this kind of person get this result in this amount of time for this price. If you or someone you know needs this, I can send examples. That is not begging. That is positioning. Begging says, please save me. Positioning says, here is a result, here is the price, here is the deadline. Most men are too proud to ask directly, so they stay broke indirectly. They call it dignity. But often, it is fear wearing a clean shirt. You say you do not want to bother people. But you are not bothering people when you make a clear offer to a relevant person. You are bothering people when you send confused messages, emotional messages, desperate messages, or vague messages that make them do the work of understanding what you want. A clear offer respects the other person. It tells them what you do. It tells them who it is for. It tells them when it can be done. It tells them what it costs. It allows them to say yes, no, or refer someone else. That is professional. The unsupported man must become comfortable with clean rejection. A no is not an injury. A no is information. A no shows you where the offer did not connect, where the buyer was wrong, where the timing was poor, where the proof was weak, or where the price did not match the perceived value. The immature man experiences rejection as identity damage. The strategic man experiences rejection as market feedback. There is a difference. When you send 30 messages, you are not only looking for money, you are collecting intelligence. Which offer gets a reply? Which buyer understands fastest? Which problem feels urgent? Which words create interest? Which examples make people trust you? Which price creates hesitation? Which deadline creates movement? This is why direct outreach is powerful. It forces reality to answer. Passive posting lets you hide. You can tell yourself the algorithm did not help. You can tell yourself people did not see it. You can tell yourself the timing was wrong. Direct outreach removes that shelter. You put the offer in front of a person, and the market gives you a signal. That signal may sting. Good. The sting is useful. It is better to be corrected by reality today than comforted by fantasy for another year. If you are a small creator, send the offer to other creators. If you can edit, offer clips. If you can design, offer thumbnails. If you can write, offer captions, descriptions, resumes, simple landing pages, or outreach messages. If you can teach, offer tutoring. If you can organize, offer cleaning, room resets, digital file cleanup, or basic business support. If you can translate, offer translation. If you can do errands, offer time to people who have more money than time. Do not wait for status before you solve problems. Solving problems creates status. The man with no support must learn distribution. Not manipulation, not begging. Distribution. The ability to place his offer in front of people who may need it. A hidden offer is almost the same as no offer. A hidden skill is almost the same as no skill. A hidden result is almost the same as no result. Visibility is not vanity when it is attached to usefulness. Visibility becomes vanity when it is attached only to attention. But when visibility carries a clear offer, it becomes distribution. And distribution is how the unsupported man stops waiting to be discovered. You do not need the world to find you. You need 30 people to understand what you can do this week. That is enough to begin. Law 6. Convert the first payment into proof. The first payment is not the goal. The first payment is evidence. A foolish man spends it and returns to zero. A strategic man turns it into proof. Screenshot the result. Ask for a testimonial. Create a before and after. Document the process. Write a mini case study. Collect the evidence. Because money without proof is consumed. Money with proof becomes leverage. This is how one payment becomes two. Two become five. Five become reputation. Reputation becomes inbound demand. Demand gives a man options. And options are the beginning of freedom. Most men waste the first win because they misunderstand what it means. They think the money is the victory. It is not. The money is only the visible receipt of value exchanged. The deeper victory is that someone trusted your offer enough to pay. That trust can be documented. That documentation can be shown. That proof can reduce fear for the next buyer. That is the mechanism. The unsupported man cannot rely on reputation he has not built yet, so he must manufacture trust one result at a time. After you deliver, ask clearly, was this useful? What changed after the result? Can I use your feedback as a testimonial? Can I show the before and after? Can I mention the result without revealing private details? Can I use this as an example for future clients? Do not be awkward about proof. Proof is not bragging when it is connected to service. It is evidence. and evidence protects the next buyer from uncertainty. People hesitate when they cannot see the result. People delay when they cannot trust the process. People ignore when they cannot understand the offer. People choose someone else when that person has proof and you only have claims. So do not complain that nobody trusts you. Build trust in public. This is where Machiavellian realism matters. Machiavelli warned a prince to avoid being despised and hated, and to show gravity, courage, and firmness in his actions. Business has a similar law. If you want respect, your behavior must create confidence. Deliver fast. Communicate clearly. Do not overpromise. Do not vanish. Do not act like an amateur and then complain that people treat you like one. Your first customer is not just a customer, he is a witness. Make him witness competence. This is also where the unsupported man must control his emotions. The first client may not praise you the way you want. The first result may not feel glamorous. The first testimonial may be simple. The first payment may be smaller than your ego expected. Good. Let it be small. Let it be plain. Let it be practical. The first proof is not meant to impress the world. It is meant to destroy your excuse. Because once one person pays, the story changes. You can no longer say, nobody will pay. You can only ask, how do I improve the offer, the buyer, the result, the proof, and the distribution? That is a better question, a stronger question, a question with power inside it. Law 7, repeat, until money becomes leverage. Fast money is survival. Repeated proof is leverage. Leverage is when the world starts responding differently because replacing you becomes inconvenient. 1 job gives you cash. 10 jobs give you proof. 50 jobs give you pattern recognition. 100 jobs give you reputation. Reputation gives you pricing power. Pricing power gives you options. Options give you freedom. This is the ladder. Isolation becomes discipline. Discipline becomes skill. Skill becomes proof. Proof becomes cash flow. Cash flow becomes leverage. Leverage becomes sovereignty. That is the real game. Not looking rich, not sounding ambitious, not fantasizing about revenge. Becoming economically harder to control. The unsupported man must understand this clearly. Fast money is not the same as wealth. Fast money gives you oxygen. It breaks paralysis. It proves that you can move without permission. But if you stop there, you remain trapped in survival. The goal is not to chase small payments forever. The goal is to turn small payments into repeatable evidence. Then use that evidence to improve the buyer, the price, the offer, and the result. At first, you may sell your time. Then you learn which problems repeat. Then you build a sharper service. Then you collect proof. Then you raise your price. Then you choose better buyers. Then you systemize delivery. Then you build reputation. Then people begin to come to you. That is leverage. Leverage means your past work starts helping your future work. A testimonial works while you sleep. A before and after works while you sleep. A case study works while you sleep. A clear offer works while you sleep. A reputation works while you sleep. This is why proof is more powerful than motivation. Motivation has to be regenerated every morning. Proof accumulates. Motivation depends on mood. Proof depends on evidence. Motivation can fade after a bad day. Proof remains visible after the feeling disappears. The strategic man builds things that survive his emotions. That is the difference between a man who is inspired and a man who is becoming powerful. Here is the cold truth. You do not make money fast by trying to escape work. You make money fast by making your work easier to buy. Clear problem. Clear buyer. Clear result. Clear price. clear deadline, clear proof. That is the mechanism. The broke man thinks money is hidden behind secrets. The strategic man knows money is hidden behind friction. Remove friction and payment gets closer. If people do not understand what you offer, they will not buy. If people do not trust you, they will hesitate. If people cannot see proof, they will delay. If people do not feel urgency, they will ignore you. So your task is not to become louder. Your task is to become clearer. Do not say, "I can do many things." That sounds weak. Say, "I can do this specific thing by this specific deadline." The market pays clarity faster than confusion. And this is where the old identity must end. From this point on, stop calling yourself unsupported as if it is only a wound. Unsupported also means unowned. If no one funded you, no one controls the first move. If no one believed in you, no one gets credit for your proof. If no one opened the door, then you learn to sell through the wall. You are not a man waiting for support. You are a man building evidence. You are not a victim of silence. You are a producer under pressure. You are not asking the world to understand your potential. You are forcing the market to respond to your usefulness. That is how the unsupported man becomes difficult to dismiss. Not loud, not cruel, not manipulative. Difficult to dismiss because he has proof. Difficult to dismiss because his offer is clear. Difficult to dismiss because his results are visible. Difficult to dismiss because he no longer negotiates with doubt before taking action. Machiavelli wrote that fortune ruins the man who relies entirely on her when she changes. The unsupported man cannot rely on fortune. He must build barriers, skills, offers, cash, proof, reputation, and alternatives. That is your protection, not hope. Structure. Hope is fragile when there is no evidence under it. Structure is different. Structure tells you what to do when you are tired. Structure tells you what to do when nobody replies. Structure tells you what to do when the first offer fails. Structure tells you what to measure, what to change, and what to repeat. This is why the 72-hour assignment matters. First, audit what you control. Second, create one cash offer. Third, send 30 direct messages. Fourth, deliver one result. Fifth, collect proof. Sixth, repeat the offer. Seventh, improve the price, the buyer, or the result. Do not make this mystical. Do not make this emotional. Do not wait for the perfect niche. Do not wait until your family understands. Do not wait until your friends clap. Do not wait until confidence arrives. Confidence is not the starting point. Evidence is. And evidence is built through action under pressure. John Paul DeJoria did not wait until homelessness felt comfortable. He moved product into the market. Howard Schultz did not wait until everyone understood what Starbucks could become. He built a working model first. Machiavelli did not write about power from comfort. He wrote after exile, humiliation, and political loss. Pressure did not make him softer, it made him more observant. That is the final lesson. Pressure reveals whether a man is only wounded or actually strategic. If nobody supports you, that is painful. But it is also clarifying. There is no audience to impress, no permission to request, no applause to depend on, no one to blame for your first move, only the offer, the result, the proof, the next move. If you are the man who has outgrown surface-level motivation, stop pretending another video alone will change your life. You already know what must happen. Your problem is not inspiration. Your problem is building a system that turns pressure into proof when nobody is watching. If you keep consuming truth without converting it into action, you will become addicted to clarity and remain poor in evidence. Inside Patreon, you get exclusive deeper training on offer building, discipline, leverage, and the psychology of power, so you can turn isolation into structure and structure into results. This is not for spectators. It is for men who are ready to become measurable. The decision is yours. Now understand the deeper danger. Most men do not lose because they never get a first win. They lose because they do not know what to do after the first win. They get paid once and relax. They get proof once and stop documenting. They get a little attention and start performing instead of building. They turn first cash into consumption instead of leverage. They celebrate movement before it becomes a machine. That is why the unsupported man must be colder with his victories than he is with his failures. A failure gives you feedback. A victory gives you temptation. After the first payment, do not ask, "What can I buy?" Ask, "What can this prove?" Do not ask, "How can I feel successful?" Ask, "How can I make the next buyer trust faster?" Do not ask, "Who finally respects me?" Ask, "What system can turn this result into repetition?" That is how you stop being a man who occasionally makes money and become a man who creates cash flow through proof. Your first payment is not the finish line, it is the first witness. The unsupported man loses when he turns first cash into comfort. He wins when he turns first cash into proof, proof into reputation, reputation into pricing power, and pricing power into options. You are not waiting for support anymore. You are building evidence. Comment. Proof if you are done waiting for belief before you build. The next danger is what unsupported men do after their first win. They get paid once, relax, and lose the leverage they just created. Do not be that man. No support, no permission. Build anyway.